More than 150,000 federal employees could soon be setting up picket lines. The Public Service Alliance of Canada is the country's largest public sector union. It says members have given it an overwhelming strike mandate. Chris Aylward is the union's national president. He says workers across the country, whether they're unionized or not, are in the same boat.
Rising costs of living, the rate of inflation, while we're sitting back watching corporations make record profits. Workers are frustrated in this country. They're fed up to see this. You know, you're being gouged in the grocery store aisles, you're being gouged at the gas pumps, and yet nobody's wages are increasing. I mean, workers are just being kept, pushed down, and we just fall further and further and further behind. That's why we decided in January to take the strike votes, and that's why our members today loudly and clearly said that they're prepared to take job action.
And the CBC's Janice McGregor joins us now live from Ottawa. She was listening into all of that. So, Janice, if negotiators can't reach a deal, what happens?
Well, Friday is turning out to be a pretty key day in this. As of today, there are 4 bargaining groups that are in a legal strike position, some 120,000 workers that Chris Aylward represents. As of Friday, they will be joined by 35,000 employees from the Canada Revenue Agency. And the thinking here strategically is that if they are to walk away from these talks, that they would do so as a group. You get more leverage that way. But in the meantime, they are still at the table with federal mediators talking, and it's always hopeful while people are still talking. What would it mean, though, if they decided to walk? There are agreements in place to keep some essential workers on the job. I'll give you a couple of examples what that might entail. For if you need a passport on an emergency basis, for example, that might still be processed, but if your passport expires and you just want to go on vacation a few months from now, that is the sort of processing that could be disrupted by this. The border would not be blocked outright, but could you see delays, for example? Could inspections no longer happen smoothly? Yes. Anything involving data processing, call centers. You think of things like employment insurance, immigration services, and yes, your tax filing could grind to a halt. Although they say that essential government income supports like the Canada Child Benefit would continue to flow. Chris Aylward, the national president, says, look, this is necessary because the kind of people he represents are being treated unfairly by the government as things stand.
These are not high-paid senior executives. The majority of our members are women making between $40,000 and $65,000 a year. Not the kind of salaries that can withstand being rolled back. Our members' wages have been stuck in neutral while the cost of living continues to soar.
Now, well, certainly a lot of people are in the National Capital Region. If we are thinking about call centers and processing centers, you know from the return window on those envelopes that a lot of those people are in Sudbury, Miramichi, Shawinigan, Charlottetown. Across Canada, workers could be affected. But these are workers, it must be said, who do have very comprehensive benefit plans already, good pension plans. They have already sorted out a new healthcare plan in these talks. It is really coming down to wages. Government negotiators have said they are confident that there is a path to a deal. The two sides still talking, as I said.
It's been nearly 2 decades since federal public servants were in a contract dispute on this scale. What is different this time?
Well, I think we have to start with the fact that a lot of these workers were involved in remote work during the pandemic. This is one of the big issues actually in these talks, how that return to work plan may or may not have been treating people fairly. And also, if you're a union organizer, how do you organize picketing in a world where people are logging in from their kitchen tables and it's no longer as simple as blocking access to a government building anymore? We also have to consider things you were just talking about with your previous guests. Canada's labor market, very tight, lots of vacancies. Workers have options. That puts union negotiators in a stronger position than they were, say, in 1991, when there was a 10% unemployment rate in this country. But a very tricky assignment if you are a government negotiator. These talks compete with other huge spending demands on the federal government. If you put in a big across-the-board 5% wage increase for this many workers across the country, well, that could have a big inflationary effect, just as governments and the Bank of Canada is trying really hard to tamp down inflation, get those interest rates, under control in this country. So this is going to be really fascinating to watch.
And we know you'll be watching it all for us. Thanks for this, Janice. That is
You're
the
welcome.
CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa.